Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Brad Walsh. He, like me, has a huge heart and a bit of a potty mouth. And we're going to talk about women's empowerment. Welcome to the show, Brad.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for having me here and allowing me to be in your energy and on your platform. I appreciate this opportunity to be able to sit down and speak with you. And thank you for that lovely intro.
Is that the first time you've been introduced that way?
Yes, absolutely. I have never been introduced that way. So thank you for that experience. I love it.
Well, I'm all about being authentic, and
Absolutely.
you really are just an absolute sweetheart. And
Thank
I'm
you.
also not kidding about the potty mouth. So we'll give a little PG-13 plus disclaimer here for this episode. I want to start by talking about what you've got going on. I know that you really are on a mission to empower women personally and professionally. You've got a lot of ways that you're doing that you're supporting that mission. So let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about all the different things that you've got going on.
Sure. So I guess the first and foremost would be the podcast, the platform, Empowerography, the podcast, which you were a guest on recently, which was a wonderful experience to have you on my show. So that's just all about helping to empower women, giving women a platform to share their voice and share their story with the world. And I mean, the goal is to help reach and inspire as many women as we possibly can through the stories of the women who are part of the community and want to share their struggles, their journeys to get to where they are today. I mean, if we can reach just one woman with each of these women's stories, that's what it's all about for me. That I want to be able to provide that space. And I love being able to sit down and have these conversations with these women, because I feel like me interviewing these women, me providing this space or this vehicle for women to share their stories, I'm being taken along that ride with them. And it's such an honor to be part of that journey, to be taken along that ride with them as they share their story and tell their story and get the word out there about what they've been through. And I guess kind of giving other women permission to stand up and share their stories. That's what it's about. And letting them know that, hey, you know what? You're not alone in this. I've been through something similar. I've struggled through this, but look at where I am now. And this is also possible for you. That is the most important part for me. And I love being able to provide that space. It's such an honor, and it's an amazing journey. I mean, the platform is now just over 2 years old. I'd say 2.5 years old now. And I've interviewed over 400 women, and every single one of those women and their stories, I pull inspiration from every single one of them, because they're all so different. Yet some of them, they do have that common thread through their stories, but they're also uniquely different, because each woman, of course, is uniquely different. And I love being part of that and being able to hold that space as we have those conversations. It's just one of the most beautiful experiences. It's incredible.
We're in very interesting times, not even just because of the pandemic, but consciously, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
We're seeing, in some respects, people are evolving, and in some respects, it almost seems like people are de-evolving. From a woman's perspective, there's been a lot of growth over the past several decades. There's also still, and sometimes it surprises me, when you see these reports of income equality gaps. Yeah. In fact, I actually saw something recently that the average woman CEO pays herself in her own company less than the average male CEO.
Wow.
Now, a lot of this is social conditioning that we're still breaking through. And it's exciting for me when I see, another woman become a billionaire. And that's not just about the money, it's about breaking down this old social conditioning and stepping into this this sense of empowerment that we can be, do, and have everything that our heart desires. There is not a rule that says you have to have a penis to be successful.
Right.
And yet there still is a lot of that conditioning flowing through our cultures.
Yeah.
And I
absolutely.
say cultures plural because certainly some cultures are far more restrictive than others. And here in the United States, we're sort of like the wild child in many respects. And we still see it here.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And that's a big part of the inspiration for me for starting the platform is to that my hope is that the podcast can be a spoke in the wheel for change around this ridiculous mindset of the social conditioning, the 1930s mentality of this old boys club. It's complete bullshit. There's no need for it. We're in the year 2022. What the hell are we doing? Like, this is ridiculous. And yes, I have to say that what I've learned through my conversations with all the women that I've spoken to, we are seeing a shift. Things are starting to move in the right direction, but it's taken way too fucking long. Like, this is ridiculous that we still are dealing with this. There is no space or place for that mentality and that attitude in the year 2022. It's got to go. We have to somehow figure out how we can accelerate that mission to eradicate that mindset and that behavior, because there's no place for it. None. It doesn't belong here.
Yeah. Now, I'll be the first to say that I love my male clients just as much as I love my female clients.
Right.
And this isn't a feminist type of thing. In fact, I mean, you are a man. Just in case somebody listening hasn't figured that out. Brad is a man.
Thank you for clarifying that, Alicia.
Now, this is a really, really important point. There are so many really incredible men in this world that are rallying for the same mission.
Yeah.
This is not a us versus them. This is not a gender war. This is a consciousness issue where there are people who are coming from a very lack-based mentality, a very competitive, disempowered way of looking at life and looking at the world. And not all women necessarily are highly evolved either. We're not saying that, right? We're not saying that all women should reign supreme and are being segregated by men. But for those women who are feeling called to get their message out, to follow their heart, to be more, to do more, to have more and better in life, that's what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. And I think that as a man and as men, I think with the evolving times and with the way things are changing, I think we need to take a stand and show women that we are allies. We're not trying to keep you under our thumbs anymore. That needs to change. And I think the more men like myself who are hosting a platform like this and helping to empower and elevate women and amplify their voices, we need to be more present. We need to show up more that, hey, we're standing beside you, shoulder to shoulder with you. We support you. We are your allies. And if you have a platform, use it to help women get their voices heard. I think that's our responsibility as men, partially to do that, to let women know that we are allies and we do stand beside and support you.
Let's talk a little bit about the book projects that you have going on, because I think that's another way to share your story, share your message, inspire others.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny the way this whole thing has unfolded for me. I mean, I'm a photographer and I never in a million years thought that I would end up being a podcaster. I mean, my photography, yes, it supports women. It empowers women. but I never in a million years dreamed I'd be hosting a podcast. And now how this progression has happened into authorship and the publishing world, where I'm, again, a natural progression into providing yet another platform for women to share their stories, which is, as you mentioned, the book. So I've got two that I'm currently working on right now, one called Transforming Pain into Purpose, Triumphant Tales of Empowerment. And so I'm looking for women to share their stories there as well, of struggle, whatever they've been through, what they see. What is your definition of transforming pain into purpose? How have you shifted that into and triumphed over that struggle that you've been through? And then the second one is called Building Empires, Success Stories of a CEO. So women who have, like yourself, built a successful business from the ground up and are smashing those stereotypes, are smashing those glass ceilings, for lack of a better term, smashing that conditioning that no, women have to be over here. No, women can be and have it all as well, and they deserve it. So it's just been a great progression into providing yet another platform in addition to the podcast for women to share their stories and get their stories out there, because I believe that every single person on this planet has a story to share, and they should have the opportunity to share that story, whether it be in a podcast, books, however you want to do that, do it. Podcast, books, however you want to share your story. I think it's important.
I love it. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about how our listeners can connect with you towards the end. But right now, I want to put you on the hot seat as the business owner. We personally, you and I have talked about all sorts of stuff, both on and off the air. Now, I'd love for you to share with my audience a little bit about your own journey and perhaps one mindset obstacle that you personally had to overcome in order to get to where you are today.
One, I have to pick just one, man. Well, I just started my entrepreneurial journey 5 years ago this month. Actually, I'm celebrating 5 years. And like I said, I started out as a photographer. That was where I wanted to go. Photography is my first love, my first passion. And so that's naturally what I gravitated towards. That's what I want to do for a living. I want to be a photographer and do what I love. So I would say probably the first thing that came to mind when you said that is competition mindset. That was a huge, huge stumbling block for me. I was caught in this mindset, and I was always worried about what other photographers were doing. Why am I not here? Look at where this person is. I'm not where they are. And it took me, I would say, probably a good year and a half before I was able to break out of that mindset, that competition mindset, to where I got to the point where, there were so many times, of course, as all entrepreneurs go through, I want to just throw in the towel, forget it. I'll get a corporate job. I don't want to deal with this. I can't get over this demon in my head. I can't get past it. And it was through conversations with other photographers and friends that I came to the realization about a year and a half in that, you know what, my only competition is me. As long as I can look back on my journey and see that I've improved, and I improve each day as I'm going through and walking through this journey, that's the only competition there is. I am of the belief now that no matter what field of work you're in, there is more than enough work to go around for everybody. That comes from a lack mindset, that competition, that all comes from a lack mindset. You have to shift and realize that not everybody is going to be your ideal client. Not everyone is going to resonate with your work, nor are you going to resonate with everyone that comes through your door that wants to work with you. So once you get past that and realize that you will find your clients and your ideal clients will find you, that's when you can shift into that competition mindset within yourself. As long as I'm only competing against me, that's all that matters. And that was a huge lesson. It took me, like I said, a year and a half to learn that. But once I learned that, and I can tell you, once I was able to shift my mindset, my whole world shifted. I was getting more inquiries for bookings. I was getting more bookings. It was unbelievable just that little piece. I mean, I shouldn't say little, because it's not, it was a huge thing for me to overcome. But when I look back on it, it's like I was getting in my own way. I was preventing me from succeeding, from growing, from learning. But once you do that, your whole world, I guarantee you, your world will completely blow wide open.
That is a powerful, powerful statement. I've seen this myself as well as with my clients over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It is our own mental crap
Yeah.
that is typically blocking us from the very goal that we want to achieve. And we actually are inundated with evidence of the belief that is the belief that's blocking us. But because we're so stuck in the problem, we can't objectively see what we're doing to ourselves so that we can shift it and move into that energy of freedom, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to say too, I want to add too, that just because, for me personally anyways, I was able to jump over that hurdle, but that doesn't mean still today, 5 years later, I don't struggle with it, because believe me, I still do. I get in my own head. I don't want to say as much, but I do. I still get in my own head. I still get in my own way. Just because you do it once doesn't mean you're not going to have to do it again. And that you did it that once, and you'll never have to worry about it again, because we're human beings. It's going to pop up again. Imposter syndrome, all that stuff. But you just have to remember that you can get past it, and that it is you that is causing that block. And once you're able to clear that, you can carry on and continue to grow your business, continue to grow as a person, all of those things. But it's going to pop up. You're not, just because you get rid of it once doesn't mean it's not coming back, because believe me, it does.
Every guest that I've had who is really open and honest
Mm-hmm.
about the mindset stuff, it's always coming back to this kind of fundamental principle that I'm preaching all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's normal, it's natural, it's okay to bump up against your stuff.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned by marketing, very sophisticated marketing, throughout most of our lives, from childhood on. All you need is the pill that's going to get rid of the pain, right? All you
Yeah.
need is the pill. It's going to get rid of the disease. All
Mm-hmm.
you need is the treadmill. It's going to get rid of the weight. All you need is this thing. And we still play this game with marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And as conscious as I try to be in my marketing, there's still always an element of that, because it's the only thing, unfortunately, in many cases, that will hook someone's attention long enough to say, this might actually be a solution to my problem. This might actually be on my path to transforming my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of sad that the mind works that way, because it is the same thing that hooks us in to say this is a good thing for me is also in many cases the detriment to our progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is this fallacy that there is this happily ever after.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to talk about how in the story of Cinderella,
Mm-hmm.
She is just beat down by life.
Mm-hmm.
She's got this series of unhappy circumstances, and she's just this bleeding heart, and we all just want what's best for Cinderella. And eventually she's got the happy outcome, and she marries Prince Charming.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sort of sets the tone that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You can have all of this shit, and then Prince Charming is going to make it all go away. Mm-hmm. Right? The course, the guru, the this, the that, the whatever is going to take all of the sadness, and it's all going to go away, and you get to live happily ever after. Mm-hmm. But I always remind people, we don't know what happens after Cinderella married Prince Charming
That's
because the
right.
story doesn't talk about all of that.
That's right. It's she marries Prince Charming in the end, and that's it. They live happily ever after. But I think that's another thing that, and you and I have spoken about this briefly, and I think that we need to have more conversations around that whole thing about entrepreneurship, that just because you overcome certain things and you overcome adversity and you're on the other side of that particular piece of adversity doesn't mean there's not going to be more struggles down the road. Just because you've gotten to this point doesn't mean, okay, I've finally made it. No, there's still lots more work to do. And there are going to be struggles that come up, but this doesn't get talked about enough. And I know you talk about this and I like to talk about it, but I think we need to have more conversations. And I think too, that as entrepreneurs, we should be helping to educate. And again, I'm only speaking 5 years in. You've been in business a lot longer than myself, but I think that it's almost like we have a responsibility to help educate other entrepreneurs who are just coming in to this world, to say and let them know that, you know what, it's not always going to be rainbows and puppy dogs and ice cream and all that fun and happy stuff. There is struggle, real struggle along the way. And you're going to hit that at many different points in your journey, whether it be the 1 year, the 5 year, the 10 year, the 15 year, you're still going to hit those struggles and it's going to happen. And that's real life. And you need to realize that, because I think entrepreneurship gets glamorized. It's this beautiful, wonderful thing. And don't get me wrong, it is. Entrepreneurship is amazing. Only 5 years in, I don't think I could ever go back to working for someone else. It'd be too hard. But I think we need to stop glamorizing it and stop showing people the highlight reel of entrepreneurship and show them the other side of it too, so that they get a more accurate picture of what the whole thing looks like.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so important to remember that we ultimately are creating our lives, we're creating our businesses, and that can include a lot of really, really wonderful things. But we're also human.
Yeah.
And that means we have all sorts of wacky beliefs. We have all sorts of turbulent emotions. Sometimes that struggle is not even external stuff.
No.
Sometimes it is purely the inner game stuff. It is that feeling of deep-rooted fear, deep-rooted insecurity. And there's not something financially necessarily bloodletting, money out of your business kind of crisis.
Right.
Sometimes it's purely an inner crisis that you have to work through because you have old beliefs that do not serve you. And
Absolutely.
that's a big part of this journey, and recognizing that you can achieve incredible milestones. And as you continue to up level, you're going to bump up against some of that other old stuff that just cannot come with you to your next level.
Absolutely. And I have to say, I think that the internal struggles, if you can overcome those as they come along, as they come up, I mean, let's be honest, you're going to face struggles as well, where you're hearing all this external bullshit from other people, haters, and all these other people who throw noise at you and don't believe in you and don't support you or want to call you out or beat you down. I think that honestly, if you can overcome this one, the one in here, these ones inside you, that stuff is nothing. That's a walk in the park. Getting past and getting over that stuff will be a cakewalk if you can do this work in here and focus on the stuff in here.
The inner work.
That's the toughest one. That's the hardest struggle for sure. And again, like I said, it's not a one and done. You're going to experience them all through your journey. And it's just a matter of staying committed to doing the work and getting past that and leveling up, as you say, getting to that next step and just continue working on that. And like I said, it goes back to the competition thing. Only compete against yourself. As long as you're improving, you're good.
So good. So good. Okay, Brad, how can our listeners connect with you? So you've got the podcast, you've got the community, you're doing the book project.
Yep. So my Facebook group, I have a group called the Empowerography Podcast Lounge on Facebook. You can join there. We've got an amazingly beautiful community. I think there's about 900 women in that community. The podcast, as you mentioned, Alicia, you can check out my website, empowerographypodcast.com. If you're interested in being a guest, you can hop on there and send me an email. Instagram at Empowerography Podcast. And those are the main places you can find me.
Awesome. So we talked about some pretty deep stuff, some pretty empowering stuff.
Yeah.
I know empowerment is one of your favorite words. So perhaps you can end us on a positive note and let's maybe empower our listeners. So what empowering final words do you have for all of us?
I would have to say, just believe in who you are and don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't do anything, because you can. We are limitless human beings and we can accomplish anything we set our mind to. So don't let anyone stand in your way. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something, because we are limitless and we are capable. You can do it.
I love it. Beautiful way to end this segment. Thank you so much, Brad, for being with us today.
Alicia, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure sitting down and speaking with you, as it always is. So I appreciate you.
And we have to share some love for our listeners. We appreciate you as well. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.